dates back tens of thousands of years.
Baalbek, as we know from the archaeological evidence, must have existed during the Neolithic period, between 6,000 to 8,000 years or even 9,000 years BC.
Before the Roman temple was this spaceport platform that was apparently used for extraterrestrials coming and going on planet Earth.
What if the history we were taught contained a fundamental, devastating error? A physics problem that Western archaeology simply chose to ignore because the answer was too terrifying. We ask you to imagine a colossal structure, a masterpiece of masonry, so massive and so perfectly executed that any modern construction company, equipped with today's diesel engines, satellite-guided hydraulics, and advanced computer modeling, would genuinely struggle to replicate it. Now, strip away all that steel and technology. Replace them with the simple, rudimentary tools of the ancient world: copper chisels, hemp rope, wooden rollers, and the sheer muscle of the Roman Empire. The paradox of Baalbek begins here, nestled high in the fertile Bekaa Valley of Lebanon. Baalbek stands as the ultimate historical enigma. While historians focus on the magnificent Roman temples built in their imperial glory, dedicating the site to Heliopolis, the city of the sun, these temples rest upon a foundation that predates their empire and utterly defies their engineering genius. This colossal platform is where the verifiable historical record shatters, forcing logic to yield to speculation. We are talking specifically about the trilithon, the three colossal limestone blocks forming the base of the Jupiter temple podium.
The whole Baal name is up for debate. There's a big story about that. It's like this pagan god that goes back to the time of the Canaanites.
These are not just large stones. They are geological monsters, each block weighing an estimated minimum of 800 and, more often, 1,000 metric tons. To comprehend this scale, consider this. One single trilithon block has the approximate mass of the entire Space Shuttle Discovery when empty, or the combined weight of 40 fully laden military tanks. No known historical method, whether it was using ramps, primitive cranes, or simple manpower, adequately explains their carving, transportation from the quarry several kilometers away, or their final precise positioning. It is, quite literally, an unsolved equation. 1,000 tons, multiplied by the primitive tools of the ancient world, equals an outcome of absolute physical failure. For too long, the only explanations offered were shrouded in folklore, tales of vengeful gods, long-lost magic, or the legendary strength of giants. But today, the most compelling search has abandoned the dusty parchments of myth and entered the cold, hard realm of empirical data. Researchers have utilized the most advanced tools of the 21st century: artificial intelligence, AI, specifically deploying laser lidar scanning and computer vision algorithms. The purpose? To scan the trilithon with micron-level precision. They weren't looking for ancient inscriptions or religious texts. They were looking for an engineering fingerprint, an unmistakable sign of who built the platform. And what the AI has revealed is not a confirmation of Roman ingenuity, but startling evidence of something non-human at the foundation. The machine is measuring a level of accuracy, what we call micro-tolerances, and a sheer scale of work that suggests original builders were operating on a fundamentally different, far superior level of power and technology than the humans who later settled on the site. The data, cold and impartial, simply measures the truth of the engineering. AI has measured the impossible. It found design parameters that are statistically too massive and too precise for human capability in the supposed time frame. This evidence suggests that the legendary giants of ancient scripture, the Nephilim, weren't just a story meant to scare children. Their existence may be literally encoded in the sheer size and terrifying perfection of this foundation.
But Baalbek, if there was one example, one ancient site on Earth that is evidence of a lost, ancient, advanced civilization, and by advanced, I'm not talking about space lasers here. I'm talking about more sophisticated than what we were taught in school for the known capabilities.
Did the AI just uncover the physical, indisputable proof of giants? Or are we staring into the silent tomb of a forgotten, gravity-defying technology that allowed a lost civilization to manipulate the Earth? To truly grasp the impossible physics revealed by the AI's scans, we must first dive deep into the layered history of Baalbek, a history that spans millennia and often contradicts itself. The very enigma of the site is encoded in its name. Baalbek translates roughly to City of Baal, referring to the supreme Canaanite, Phoenician deity of storm, thunder, and fertility. Long before any European empire gazed upon this valley, this location was sacred, a focal point where ancient people believed the gods descended to meet mortals. The visible ruins today showcase the remarkable Roman layer, which is the most well-documented and celebrated historical period. Beginning around 15 BC, the Romans transformed the site into Heliopolis, city of the sun, erecting the stunning temples to Jupiter, Bacchus, and Venus. These temples are undeniable monuments to Roman imperial ambition, showcasing their organizational skills and mastery of engineering. Their work is a triumph of the classical world, and historians understand exactly how these structures were built, block by block.
And as we look a little bit closer, you can see that the stone of the pregnant woman is still attached to the bedrock. So something happened at Baalbek in the ancient past, causing work to stop.
But this Roman triumph rests upon a foundation that history cannot explain. The Romans inherited the colossal platform. They did not build it. They found a megalithic podium already in place, a vast, indestructible base that was thousands of years old, an architectural relic from a forgotten prehistory age. Crucially, the Roman builders made no attempt to dismantle or rebuild this older base. They treated the platform as a sacred plinth, too massive and perhaps too potent to disturb. This stark decision immediately raises the most critical question. Why would the most technologically advanced society of its time be unwilling or unable to move the stones laid by their predecessors? This is where the local legends of Lebanon offer a radical and frankly terrifying narrative that suddenly seems validated by the scale of the Trilathon. Local traditions assert that the original platform was not constructed by Phoenicians or Canaanites, but by the jinn, powerful spiritual entities, or, most frequently, by giants who thrived immediately following the great biblical flood. Some scholars, referencing the Jewish historian Flavius Josephus, 1st century AD, note that he recorded traditions linking the giant race known as the Nephilim to structures of immense size that survived the deluge. These myths paint Baalbek as a structure built by beings of unimaginable power, a sanctuary, or perhaps a foothold for a colossal race. We, as researchers armed with AI, must treat these ancient myths not as simple bedtime stories, but as encoded data. Why would virtually every local tradition agree that a forgotten, powerful, giant race built this foundation across centuries and different religions? It is because the physical evidence, the sheer, intimidating, unmovable scale of the stones, demanded a non-human explanation. The ancients saw the impossibility and wrote down the only logical conclusion. This complex two-layered history provides the ultimate foundation for our investigation. If the powerful Roman Empire, with all its genius, found this base too sacred, too difficult, or simply too large to tamper with, what kind of unimaginable strength and technology did the original builders possess? We must now abandon the poetry of myth and use the cold, hard lens of physics to measure exactly why this colossal lift was impossible for human hands. The legendary weight of the trilithon, each block a minimum of 800 to 1,000 metric tons, is not merely a fascinating historical challenge. It is a profound mathematical contradiction. This section uses basic physics to prove that placing these stones was not just difficult for the supposed builders. It was an act of physical impossibility, given the tools available at the time. First, let's analyze the failure of ancient mechanics. While the Romans were unmatched masters of structural engineering, their technology had limits. The most advanced Roman crane, the palimpsestos, employed intricate pulley systems and documented counterweights. However, even the most generously theorized capacity for these machines maxed out at around 50 to 100 tons. This capacity is 10 times less than the lightest estimate for a single trilithon block. To lift a 1,000-ton block using Roman rope and wooden pulleys would have required a crane so structurally massive that the wooden frame would have fractured under its own colossal weight before the stone ever left the ground. It is an engineering dead end. Next, we consider the failure of workforce and logistics. Let's abandon the idea of complex machinery and revert to brute force, the solution often proposed by skeptical historians. Studies on moving megalithic stones suggest that approximately 100 highly trained men can pull around 50 tons over short distances on flat ground. To move a 1,000-ton block would require a staggering minimum of 2,000 men simply to pull. The pressure problem. These 2,000 men would need stable, flat ground, and massive ropes. More critically, the pressure exerted by a 1,000-ton block on any temporary wooden track or earthen ramp would be astronomical. Any construction ramp built of earth, rock, or wood would have suffered catastrophic structural collapse under the sheer point load exerted by the stone, long before the block moved even 1 meter towards its destination. The missing evidence. Archaeological excavations have never yielded any structural evidence near Baalbek. No enormous construction ramps, no colossal wooden scaffolding pits, and no specially built staging platforms to support the movement of objects on this terrifying scale. If the Roman Empire, or any known human civilization, built something so monumental, they would leave an equally monumental blueprint of their logistics. They didn't. They built the top layer, but the mystery begins and ends at the base. Finally, there is the historical discrepancy, the ultimate tell. The smaller temple structures built by the Romans on top of the foundation are perfectly consistent with their known lifting technology, using blocks that max out in the 5,100-ton range. This stark difference in scale is the screaming clue. It proves that the Roman builders were keenly aware that they could not replicate the foundation. They treated the trilithon platform as a finished object, a sacred, unassailable plinth, a work they dared not and could not attempt to touch. The lack of any plausible mechanical explanation leaves us with a chasm in the historical record. When human logic, relying on known physics, utterly fails to explain a physical reality, we must turn to a tool that sees beyond our limitations: AI. What kind of technology leaves no traces of the lift, only the terrifying silent precision of the cut? The answer is not in the strength of the men, but in the stone itself, measured by an eye far more accurate than our own. The human eye sees an old, weathered stone. The artificial intelligence sees an engineering blueprint from an unimaginable past. This is the exact point where our quest for the builders of Baalbek leaves history behind and becomes a thrilling scientific investigation, where the results are rewriting the rules of ancient physics. Researchers, frustrated by the silence of the historical record, turn to the most advanced digital tools of the 21st century. They used cutting-edge laser lidar scanning to capture billions of data points across the colossal surface of the trilithon. We must understand lidar. It's not just a camera. It's a digital tape measure that fires rapid pulses of laser light to create a perfectly accurate point cloud, a three-dimensional model of the stone, accurate down to the sub-millimeter level. This massive influx of raw data was then fed into computer vision algorithms, sophisticated software trained to look for patterns, symmetry, and anomalies that the human eye, blinded by scale and time, simply cannot perceive. The micro-tolerances of the impossible. What the AI algorithms discovered in the fitting points between the colossal 1,000-ton blocks is the most explosive finding. When the machine analyzed the joints where the trilithon stones meet the platform below, they found that the gap tolerance, or the degree of fit, was consistently less than 1 millimeter across the entire 12-meter length of the stone. This level of precision is absolutely astonishing. In modern construction, achieving a seamless fit across blocks of such massive scale, requiring computerized milling equipment and laser-guided placement, is extremely challenging and costly. Yet the builders of Baalbek achieved this using methods unknown. This level of microtolerance is the machine's first major discovery. It proves that the builders possessed both the advanced technology to measure with extreme accuracy and the unimaginable power to place the stones without allowing gravity or shifting weight to crush the edges and ruin the fit. The flawless surface geometry and tool marks. Furthermore, the computer vision analysis examined the flatness and perpendicularity of the stone faces. The AI demonstrated that the sides of the trilithon blocks are cut to a perfect 90-degree angle, and the surfaces are so shockingly flat and smooth that they defy the known limitations of hand tools. Chisel mark. Contradiction. AI algorithms were specifically trained to recognize the irregular, overlapping, and shallow patterns left by Roman chisels. Chisel marks. The AI found almost none of these characteristic marks on the trilithon. Instead, the AI identified surfaces that suggested continuous, high-speed, and high-energy cutting, leading some researchers to hypothesize the use of massive rotary tools or sonic vibration cutting, a higher engineering standard. The AI, acting as an impartial engineering auditor, has essentially flagged the trilithon as an out-of-place artifact based on its geometry and surface finish alone. The standard of engineering is simply too high for the era it is supposedly from. The sobering conclusion provided by the AI is this: the builders of the Baalbek Foundation possessed a technology capable of measuring to modern industrial standards and a power source capable of executing cuts on a colossal scale. If human hands built this, why is the engineering perfect? The frightening implication is that there are no errors because the people who built it weren't making mistakes. They were operating within a colossal design parameter. This terrifying perfection leaves us with only one option: explore the true nature of the tools and the beings that created this masterpiece. If the micro-tolerances analyzed by the AI prove the builders had superior measurement technology, then the physical markings on the stone itself, the tool marks, prove they possessed incomprehensible power. This section focuses on the geological evidence that forces the definitive separation between the known Roman construction and the ancient foundation. The massive trilithon blocks are carved from local limestone, a relatively soft rock. Yet the way they were cut and finished reveals a technology far exceeding the capability of ancient bronze or iron chisels. The AI's computer vision analysis was specifically focused on differentiating two types of cut marks: the manual, rough incisions left by human hand tools, and any signs of continuous mechanized cutting. The signature of a colossal machine. What the AI found on the trilithon's base stones was a terrifying signature. Instead of the telltale irregular overlapping pits left by a hammer and chisel, which are abundant on the Roman temple blocks above, the foundation stones display exceptionally smooth, deep parallel grooves and surface textures suggestive of immense, uninterrupted rotational force, speed, and scale. The uniformity of the grooves suggests the use of a colossal circular saw or high-speed rotary cutter. The scale of the blocks, 1,000 tons, would necessitate a saw blade or cutting mechanism many times larger than any modern industrial tool. This is a technology the Romans simply did not possess. Lack of stress. Fractures. Crucially, the AI's analysis of the stone structure found a surprising lack of microfractures, which would be expected if the stones were cut using brute force hammering or splitting techniques common to the era. This suggests the cutting mechanism generated smooth, clean, and highly efficient energy, reducing internal stress on the rock. The forbidden geometry and archaeological segregation. The AI went further, establishing a clear archaeological segregation between the two layers of Baalbek. By comparing the geometric perfection of the trilithon with the geometry of the Roman temple stones. Dimensional disparity. The trilithon blocks demonstrate consistent 90-degree internal angles across their massive faces, a feat achievable only with consistent mechanical calibration. The smaller Roman blocks, while impressive, display measurable variations in angles and surface flatness, typical of human error and less precise tools. Composition versus execution. Both the ancient and Roman layers were carved from the same local limestone. However, the AI confirmed that the execution technique used on the lower, larger layer is fundamentally different. It's a signature of a higher, more potent technology. The AI is essentially stating that the trilithon's geometry is forbidden to its supposed Roman timeline. The geological evidence, illuminated by the unbiased processing power of AI, forces us to conclude that the builders possessed not only precise measuring tools, but also colossal power tools. This evidence shifts the entire narrative from a story about strong men to a story about a technologically advanced race that vanished. If the technology was this powerful, who were the engineers? And what massive civilization left behind the sheer scale of its industrial power, only to disappear entirely? The answers researchers found were hidden not in the stone, but in the most ancient myths about a colossal race that walked the earth. We have established the undeniable facts. The trilithon blocks are too heavy to lift with ancient human technology, and the micro-tolerances are too perfect for primitive tools. The AI's data points, the immense weight, the sub-millimeter precision, the signature of colossal high-powered cutting, all paint a portrait of builders operating far outside the known human scale. Now, we must ask the question that history has been avoiding for millennia. If the physics points to superhuman construction, does mythology point to the superhuman builders? Researchers utilized natural language processing, NLP, a form of AI trained to analyze vast libraries of ancient texts, looking for specific correlations between monumental building projects, catastrophic events like the Great Flood, and the presence of non-human entities. The results are chillingly consistent. Across numerous ancient texts and local traditions in the Near East, a recurring theme surfaces. The original Baalbek platform was constructed not by men, but by a race of giants known biblically as the Nephilim, or the Anakim, Rephaim, in other Hebrew texts. These giants are described in the book of Genesis as existing before and after the Great Flood, a hybrid race born of the sons of God and daughters of men. Connecting the size, local Lebanese and Phoenician legends, passed down orally, consistently claim that Baalbek was used as a shelter or place of refuge by these giants immediately after the deluge. The terrifying physical scale of the trilithon, which AI has measured, perfectly matches the required physical strength and scale one would attribute to these mythical figures. The trilithon is effectively a giant's building block. Josephus's account. The first-century historian Flavius Josephus, a verifiable historical source, recorded traditions asserting that structures built by the Nephilim survived the flood. Why is this significant? Because Baalbek's foundation is demonstrably built to withstand a catastrophe of that magnitude. Its colossal scale acts as a flood shield. A global network of colossal builders. The AI's data gains even greater significance when placed in a global context. The Baalbek trilithon is not an isolated anomaly. Similar megalithic, impossible. Construction exists across the globe. From the perfect polygonal fitting stones of Ollantaytambo and Sacsayhuaman in the Andes, to the massive foundation blocks of the Temple of the Sun in Tiahuanaco. All these sites share the same engineering fingerprint: immense scale, unexplainable transportation, and micro-tolerances. NLP analysis suggests that these sites are all linked by a common mythical motif: the myth of the colossal first race. This powerful correlation between scientific data, the engineering impossibility, and mythical data, the giant builders, forces a radical new hypothesis. Baalbek is a terrestrial footprint left by a powerful, colossal, globally networked civilization that existed prior to modern historical record. The AI has provided the technical proof that the blocks could not have been moved by ordinary men. The ancient texts provide the answer to who was strong enough to move them. But if they were strong enough to place a 1,000-ton block, what was their ultimate purpose? And why did they abandon their final, most massive stone in the nearby quarry? Our investigation now moves from the finished megalithic podium of Baalbek to the quarry, located about a mile away. This site holds the most direct, shocking proof of the builder's intentions: the stone of the pregnant woman, Hajar al-Hibla, an even larger monolith, still partially attached to the bedrock. If the trilithon proved their capability, this unfinished stone proves their intent. The scale of intent. The stone of the pregnant woman is truly monumental. It is substantially larger than any of the trilithon blocks, weighing an estimated 1,650 metric tons. That is nearly twice the weight of the stones already placed on the Baalbek platform. To comprehend this mass, imagine trying to move an entire modern frigate warship using nothing but muscle. No human civilization, ancient or modern, possesses the conventional engineering to even extract this stone, let alone transport and position it. Yet someone went to the effort of meticulously cutting 3 sides of it from the quarry floor. The catastrophic halt. The stone was never finished. Work stopped abruptly, leaving Hajar al-Hibla perpetually incomplete. This abandonment offers a powerful clue that contradicts the notion of a simple technical failure. If the builders were human, they would have abandoned the project early, recognizing the futility of extracting such a giant. Instead, they succeeded in moving the 1,000-ton trilithon, and their next attempt was nearly double that size. This suggests they were not limited by technology or strength. They were stopped by an external, catastrophic event. The sudden exodus. The precise, sudden stop in quarrying suggests a rapid, forced exodus, perhaps an apocalyptic, global event hinted at in the Nephilim myths, or a sudden, devastating war that forced the colossal race to evacuate the planet entirely. Beyond brute force, the sheer weight of 1,650 tons reinforces the advanced technological hypothesis. Researchers postulate that the builders likely intended to employ methods entirely unknown to us, possibly involving anti-gravity technology or sonic levitation, methods that would render the stone's weight irrelevant. The quarry becomes evidence not of their failure, but of a technology so powerful it allowed them to conceive of a 1,650-ton building block. The purpose of the giant's foundation. If weight wasn't a problem, then the size of the foundation must have been for a structural purpose far beyond housing a small Roman temple. This shifts the narrative from a simple temple to a high-powered, prehistorical installation. A power base. Perhaps Baalbek was a launch platform or a power grid base for their technology. A foundation built to withstand 1,000-ton blocks suggests it was designed to absorb immense forces, perhaps the forces generated by whatever method they used for levitation or the energy signature of the craft they utilized. Scale as intimidation. Or perhaps the scale was a declaration. The colossal foundation, with its perfect, immovable stones, was designed to stand as an eternal monument, an intimidating testament to the power of a colossal race intended to survive any global calamity. The AI, by proving the mathematical impossibility of the lift and the quarry, by proving the astronomical scale of their intentions, collaborate to deliver the final, shocking conclusion. The builders of Baalbek were not men. They were giants, or they commanded a technology so far beyond us that they could challenge the fundamental forces of the universe. We began this investigation with a simple, profound paradox: 1,000 tons of stone and 0 viable ancient human technology. We entrusted the answer not to skeptical archaeologists or ancient historians, but to the cold, objective logic of artificial intelligence. The machine has rendered its verdict, and its conclusion is definitive and chilling. The AI, through laser lidar and computer vision, did not find evidence of genius Roman engineering. It found evidence of colossal non-human scale. The data revealed engineering perfection. The discovery of sub-millimeter microtolerances on blocks weighing 1,000 tons proves that the builders possess both advanced measuring technology and anti-gravitational or high-energy placement capabilities unknown to us. Forbidden technology. The smooth, deep tool marks confirm the use of colossal, high-speed cutting machinery, separating the foundation's construction from all known human antiquity. The intent of giants. The terrifying scale of the unfinished 1650-ton stone of the pregnant woman proves the builders were challenging gravity and operating at a scale that only makes sense if their physical stature or technological might was leagues beyond our own. Baalbek is not a Roman temple. It is a colossal technical monument to a forgotten race. The AI did not find the bones of the giants, but it successfully measured their technical footprint, the size and scale of their work. This technical footprint perfectly aligns with the mythical narratives found worldwide, from the Nephilim in the Near East to the primordial builders of the Andes. We are left with a terrifying realization. The foundation of Baalbek is proof of a lost civilization that mastered physics on a grand scale, only to vanish abruptly. This leaves us with the ultimate unanswered questions that the AI can measure, but cannot answer. If they could build what we cannot move, what was the true purpose of Baalbek? Was it a permanent monument, a high-energy platform designed to generate power, or was it a launch pad for a final escape?